You probably noticed that I have a lot of really weird ways to bend notes, and I do. And I think the best thing to do with bending is realize that there's a lot of different ways to bend to a note other than the conventional way that you've been brought up doing. Now, say you want to get to A, that A, chances are you're going to probably go. Right? Now, there's two really obvious other ways to get there. It's from half step behind the note, or maybe even a step and a half. As long as you get the pitch correctly, it doesn't really matter where you bend from. And there's a lot of different ways to phrase a bend in your vibrato and make it sound a particular way. You know. Now, having these bends coming from weird notes is really nice when you're following a chord progression, because that allows you to hit a really strange note for a half a second and really grab the listener's ears. You know what I mean? Say the chord is D, and the note that I decide I want to choose is A, but I hit it from this note. It's got a really attention-grabbing thing. I mean, if you play D and I hit it from here, it's real normal, but if I stop on this note, I'm really going to get your attention, because that note for that split second sounds really awful. You know, you've got D and A flat together. Not something you want to hang out on for too long, but if you get into pitch correctly quick enough, it's going to sound really nice. And let's try a lot of different ones. Keeping the chord D, let's take a bunch of different target notes and hit them from strange notes. So that time I went to an F sharp, which is in a D major chord, and I went there from F natural, going from minor to major. Now I'm going to go to the root from a D flat, which is the major seventh. I'm going to go like this. Now let's take a note that's totally illegal and go from like a D sharp and hit an E natural over the key of D. That's kind of tricky, because you get to a note that's like still interesting over the chord, but you start from a note that's totally hellish. So you can take the D sharp and bend to like even a major third, go all the way from a D sharp to an F sharp, and you get something like this. That's really drastic. That's about as drastic as you may want to get. You can take something also like, say, an A flat and go to A. Pleasantly enough. Now, building up into this, let me show you what you want to do with this. You don't want to do this all the time. You want to break into this when you have a target note, the note of choice that you plan to hit. So if the chord is just D strumming constantly, I'll play something normal and then I'll break into one of these notes. So basically I had all these target notes and I hit them from notes that are out of the chord, out of the scale, just notes that would sound really horrendous over a D chord. And those are easy enough to find. All you have to do is play a chord and play a note that doesn't sound good and bend it until it gets into pitch, and just store that into a memory bank in your head and remember where it is and how to get to it. And basically, one at a time, you'll just have this vocabulary of notes that you want to use. Every guitar player on the course of his life runs into the blues progression at some time, and you know what? Whether you like it or hate it, you really have to be able to play it. I mean, there's really few rules in music, but I strongly believe that you have to be able to somewhat play blues, because you're going to jam with somebody else, and like if you can't play blues, you're just going to sound like you can't play anything at all, because that's the thing that you should learn from day one. And even if it's not the kind of music you like, you should really have an idea of how it works and just what's happening, because it kind of really is the basis of rock guitar. I mean, I hate to say it, because I'm not really a great blues fan, but I think it's a progression that everybody knows, and it's probably the easiest one to hear in your head, like I was talking about, hearing something in your head. We all know what chord comes next in the blues progression. And then once you start getting into it, you can like get into substitutions and getting really fancy with the chord changes and all that. But basically, almost instinctively, every musician should sort of know what comes next in a blues pattern. And if you don't, you should start listening to a little blues. Just to do it, you know, just do it because I said do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way I would do it. Check it out.
Mercy.
Mercy. In that blues, I did a lot of stuff that I explained, you know, the bending from strange notes and the patterns and following chords with arpeggios and target notes and all that stuff. A couple little patterns in there, blues patterns that I do, that I just did. I did something like this, similar to the pattern I did before, but I added a note to it. Here's a chord progression that's going to pretty much combine a lot of the factors that I've been talking about, and it's a longer progression. And you know, when one tends to want to just follow a chord progression with one key or one scale that fits over all chords, you really want to stop and say, well, if I work a little bit harder, I can follow each chord. If I really think, and if I play really slowly, I'll have enough time to change chords with the progression. So let's try a long progression, and I'm going to follow each chord really obviously, and then I'm going to break it out a little bit, and you can watch some of the more advanced ways of following the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you live it? Did you learn it? Did you get it down? Rewind the tape and do it again until you do. And I'll see you next time.